involving building children's choir and maintaining it. Ten Commandments is always a good model to follow, not just in our lives, but anytime you're trying to come up with ideas about a certain topic, very often you can construct a Ten Commandments and cover a lot of bases. And so that's what I have tried to do with this process. As you know, with the regular Ten Commandments, the ones that we are more familiar with from the Bible, the first 4 have to do with your relationship with God, and the last 6 have to do with your relationship with people. And so the first 4 have to do with starting a choir, and the last 6 have to do with what happens after your year ends. So it's divided similarly, but not with quite the same idea. Anyway, let's just kind of begin to go down the list. And I'm going to invite, as we go along, for you to have input. I mean, there are times when you may have comments or questions or anything that you would like to add to the discussion. And feel free to do so. Come in. Okay. When you're getting started, how many of you are starting a children's choir? Anybody here? Okay, wonderful.
We started up this past year, so
cool.
We're still new.
Does everyone here direct one? Is anyone not? Okay, cool. Are you all just interested in hearing what goes on?
We're thinking about starting one.
Oh, good. Great. Okay, I didn't cover that base. Who's thinking about doing one? That's good.
Well, we've just now gotten enough children in our church.
Wonderful.
You waiting for the audible voice?
To have
Great.
You waiting for the audible voice?
for a sign.
That's right. Well, I'm hearing the sign is there because they're all set to go. That's wonderful. I mean, yeah, and if you start it now, you'll get more kids because, you know, success breeds success, and you get it going, and families come and they see things, and they go, oh, that's where we want to be. And so churches build on things that are there. And so if you can get a children's choir going, I guarantee you the young families are going to begin to come in. Because not only Sunday school draws, but so does choir. So it's very important that we look at this. Okay, let's look at number 1. Thou shalt discuss the advantages of having a children's choir with thy clergy. Okay. Now, this is very critical. There's nothing in the church that can be done without the support of the clergy. We all know that. It's not just any denomination, it's all denominations. The clergy are in charge. And that's rightfully the way it should be. I mean, we've got to understand that nobody, you know, is in and of himself or herself in the business. We work together, and there's got to be a head honcho, and that is our clergy people, our rectors or our ministers or our pastors or whoever. They have got to have the final say in what happens. So the smart ones will go to the vestry or the board or session is what I was trying to do. Yeah, and get advice, but they've got to make the final decision. So the clergy are the ones you want to appeal to first. Okay? So you go to your clergy person and you share the advantages of children's choir. Okay? What are those? Let's look at a few. Okay? A, an effective way for children to become worship leaders. I guarantee you, if they don't have ownership in the worship service now, they won't have it later. It's got to start early. Sometimes someone can come into the church at an older age, say in high school or something, and become enamored of something and find a place for themselves, but that is kind of the exception to the rule. I mean, if it doesn't start at the cradle, it usually doesn't take hold. So this is one of the advantages that you can share with the clergy, is that it brings children up in the right place. And the only way you can bring them up in the right place is to give them a chance to be a part of it. I mean, look at what happens when a child is in the worship service just watching. Think about this little person surrounded by all these big people, and everybody's standing singing a hymn. What are they seeing? Backs, sides, fronts. I mean, they can't see what's going on in front, so how can they feel like a part of that? Now, I've seen parents, and they're very wise if they do this, put their child on the aisle, let them sit on the aisle, because then they can kind of, get a better view. But the point is, as a worship leader, a child has not only a role in the service, but they have the perfect seat. You know, they have a place where they can see everything that's going on. And then when they are a part of the service, they have ownership. And that has got to become something that we focus on with our children. That has got to be something that is critical to the program. Okay? That's A. Okay, B. Another argument for having children's choir. It's a continuation of Christian education. Plain and simple. If the children's choir director is wise, he or she will work with Christian education director. What I often do, if we have an anthem based on Scripture, I'll often have our Christian ed person come in and tell the story. Share the story with the children about what is going on in the Scripture. Maybe even read it to them, but describe it to them, and so on and so forth. That gets another face in front of them and lets them realize that the church has a lot of people involved with its function. So this is the kind of thing where the children get to know people around them and come to realize that it's more like a family. I'm going to digress for just a moment. My bass section leader in the chancel choir is a vocal ed major at University of Tulsa. And he came in totally unchurched. And I'll be honest, I don't usually hire someone who doesn't have a church background. But the more I talked to him, the more I thought he really has a head on his shoulders. He's got compassion. And so I broke my rule. And I told the rector, I said, I don't know how this is going to work. But I said, this boy doesn't have a church background, but he's got all the answers to all the questions. And I'd sort of like to pursue this. And he said, let's get out of the way and let the Spirit work. And he has come in to the program, and he told me not long ago, he said, you know, this doesn't feel like what I always thought church was. I said, how does it affect you? What do you think about it? He said, well, it feels more like a family. You know, there you go. So he still has not made a decision about joining the church, but one thing at a time. You know, he's young, he's a sophomore, he's got time. You know, and so I was just so pleased with that attitude. And he helped me out with Vacation Church School this year as my assistant. And he said, please call me for this again next year. He'd never worked with kids before. He said, I love this. This is wonderful. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. But that kind of sprung out of this other, continuation of Christian education. I think, you know, it happens on all levels. I mean, in our chancel choir, where there's Christian education going on, even while the music is taking place. And so there's that obvious link. And so in your working with children, teach the church year. You know, as you're teaching anthems that are appropriate for the service, talk to them about why they're appropriate. And spend time dealing in Advent, Christmas, Epiphany, Lent, Easter, Pentecost, you know, all these things, and let them understand what the differences are, and that the fact that the church has its own year that begins in late November, early December. And, you know, New Year's Day is Advent 1, and that kind of thing, and they can begin to understand how that sort of thing works. So Christian education. A C. This one will appeal to any clergy person. More people are going to be in church on Sunday when the children sing than any other Sunday. You can count on it, because all the parents and all the grandparents and all the siblings are going to be there to hear their chorister perform. And so, you know, numbers speak. You know, sometimes we wish they didn't. I'll be honest, I don't like the numbers game, and I don't think it's important. But clergy do look at it as success in church if there's more people there. And that's hard to fight. I mean, it's hard to deny that, because on one level it is true. But that is a point that can be made, is that when the children sing, there will likely be a bigger congregation. And what often happens is that friends will see their friends up there, and they'll decide they want to join, because they got to do something in front of you. And so, you know, things build off what is happening, and something starts, and then it begins to build in different ways. And so the clergy will love that. They will enjoy that. They will appreciate that, and they will be glad that there is a children's choir for that hi, come in. Okay, number 2. thou shalt take other children's choir directors to lunch and pick their brains about starting and carrying out a children's program. Okay? If you've never done this before, that's one of the best things you can do. Because if you've not done it before, you're going, what do I do? What do I do first? How do I find this? Where do I get that? What do we do for 45 minutes? You know, you've got all these questions. Go to someone who knows. Okay? You probably have friends, and even if you don't, make friends with somebody in town who has a children's choir going. You know, take them to lunch and get acquainted and say, you know, we're trying to start this program, and I know you have a wonderful one going here. What can you tell me about that? And believe me, they will appreciate and enjoy sharing what they've done. It's just, it's human nature, and it's a sign that you appreciate them and want to learn from them. And so that just speaks volumes to anybody. I don't know anybody who would not want to help somebody that way. So go to people and talk to them. Some of the things you want to check with them on. Talk to them about rehearsal days and times that work for them. Now I say that with reservation, because there is no perfect day and no perfect time for rehearsal. What you're going to have to do is find yours. Okay? It's an interesting dynamic because some churches, particularly downtown, if they don't do it on Sunday, it's not going to happen. And so it might happen Sunday afternoon. In some churches, it happens, believe it or not, on Sunday morning. In conjunction with church school, in conjunction with worship, somehow there's a 30-minute children's choir rehearsal stuck in there somewhere. You can make a 30-minute rehearsal work. You have to condense and you have to move fast, but you can do it. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's going to get the kids there, by golly, go for it. Okay? Our rehearsal at my church is Monday afternoon, 4:15 to 5. Okay, it's always been that way, and Episcopalians don't like things to change. We've always done it that way. Okay? So when I came there, that's when it was. We kept it that way. It's just one of those things that everybody knows that's when it is, so if they want to sing in the choir, that's when they do it. I mean, you can't fight the sports. You can't fight. You don't want to fight piano lessons, ballet, all these other things that go on that do take afternoon times and take the children away from some of these things. And so really, there's just not a great time to do this. I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages to everything. And what you've got to find out for yourself is what works for you. And it may be trial and error for a little bit. I know one year, for years, I'd had the children's choir at 4:15. And as I told you, that was the way it was when I came there. Well, some parents came to me. We had a younger choir than that. We had a little cherub choir. And a parent came to me and said, oh, if we could just put both choirs on Sunday afternoon, that would help our family so much because we could get them there. So I changed it. What happened? The same kids that had been coming were coming. And the parents who were wanting it said, you know, we weren't even thinking. That's our only free day at home. Didn't work for them. We went back to Monday. You know, it didn't change a thing for us. I mean, we tried it. But Sunday was not the day for us. Okay, maybe it is for you. That's not to say it won't work. You know, every place is different. Every demographic is different. So be kind of prepared to, you might, you know, talk to the people. If you're starting a program, talk to the people and see what their free days are. And you can kind of go with the majority on that. And if you talk to enough parents and find out that there's a certain day that most of them can bring their kids, and that's what you're going to want to do. Hi. You take account? Yeah. Cool. All right. So, rehearsal days and times that work for that person. Find out why they work for that person, this person you're taking to lunch. Okay? See what is going to be helpful for them, and then you can kind of evaluate that as far as what your church does and so on and so forth. B, how often do their children sing in worship? That is also negotiable. It depends on how many kids you have. It depends on a lot of things. My children generally sing once a month, starting in October. We start preparing in September, so they have a month ahead. But then usually once a month, I have them sing. And that keeps us busy preparing a new anthem, preparing a new hymn, and keeps things from getting dull because we can continue to work that way. And there's nothing wrong with, pardon me? My children's choir right now is grades 1 through 3. Yeah, and that's another thing we'll talk about in a second about ages, because that's another thing that is also very negotiable. There's lots of reasons to look at different things. But anyway, that's what our ages are. And so they memorize their anthem, and they learn part of a hymn. We don't learn the whole thing. Because, you know, first graders, if they're lucky, they'll get the Alleluias on the All Creatures of Our God and King. They'll learn that and they'll be fine. You know. But we do the best we can to start getting the hymns to the kids, because they've got to learn hymns with me. They won't learn them anywhere else. Okay. Public schools can't do that. I was telling some people that were in my session yesterday, I learned standing on the promises in first grade from my first grade teacher. Is that going to happen these days? I don't think so. believe not. They'd be called on carpet boys and boys. So, anyway, how often they sing, find out how often that, and find out why that works for them. Ask them why that is such a good thing for you. And then as you're talking to your new parents to be, explore the idea with them and see how they feel about it. I mean, it's always good to stay in touch with those parents. If you don't have the parental support, you don't have it. You don't have the kids. And they will appreciate being able to have input in what you're doing. It'll say something to them about how important you consider them to be in the process. And they are. They really are. They're the backbone of this. If they're not on board, then the kids won't be. So, C. How to involve parents in planning a rehearsal. We were talking about that a little bit. They can assist you in rehearsal occasionally. Many churches, in fact most churches these days, are embracing what we in the Episcopal Church call safeguarding God's children. The Roman Catholics call it Virtus, V-I-R-T-U-S. It's the preparation of people to understand the dynamics of child abuse and to prevent that in any group situation. And so many churches require that there be more than one person in the rehearsal. Okay? We cannot have, if we don't have, if my safeguarding God's children person doesn't show up, I'm supposed to cancel rehearsal. You know, that's just something we can't afford. And so we make that clear to the people. And the parents who help go through this class. It's about a 3-hour class, and they go through it in the training, and they're certified. Not certifiable, but certified. And then they can come and assist me in rehearsal. And so this is a wonderful way for parents to not only participate, but to see what you're doing. I mean, firsthand is always good. I love having visitors. We talk, you know, somebody will come in and say, oh, what if I listen today? And I just say, oh, yeah, we love having people visit. Come in and have a seat. Give them a notebook, let them, you know what we're doing. And I really like for people to see, because people don't know what goes on with children's choirs. They don't know the work we do. And we do. We work hard. We plan hard, and we work hard, and we rehearse hard. And so this is critical. I think it's a wonderful thing now that there's got to be in the first grade. It's a safety measure. I went 20 years at my church with nothing happening. And yet, apparently there are places where it is happening, and so everybody's taking precautions. And so, you know, that's fine with me. I mean, I'd just soon have somebody there, and, you know, one incident is too many. And so, that's just fine. So anyway, involve the parents. Let them assist you in rehearsal. Let them carpool if you're taking the kids someplace. I mean, they'll always be glad to do that. Any way that they can help. D. Where they find out from this person you're taking to lunch, where they find useful music and resources. Okay, you're at a place where you can do that right now. There are some wonderful, incredible displays out here. Lots of companies that have some things just waiting for you to look at and take home for your children. Okay, lots of resources, lots of music. If you can't find anything here, you're looking in the wrong place. Go up the hall here, and you go turn down that way. All these places here, you know, you'll find a wealth of valuable materials. So that's what you want to do would be find out where this person gets those. Choristers Guild is a great place. It's always been a wonderful place for children's choirs. Over 60 years they've been in existence. And they have good music, they have wonderful resources, but there are lots of places who do, and you'll find some others out here. Okay? E, find out whether their children sing musicals. Okay? And if so, how are they planning to organize? To me, the musical can be the carrot at the end of the stick. If you do it at the end of the year, you're working all year on it, little by little. And that keeps the kids coming, because they know that's coming up. We've got to keep working. We've got to keep the music going. And that's in addition to singing on Sunday. Extra work? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if you start at the beginning of the year, you could do a 30-minute children's musical. at the end of the year. And it's fun, the kids love it, costuming or not, doesn't matter. They just love getting up on the stage and doing the acting and learning a few little bits of dialogue and so on and so forth. So, you know, find out if that is a part of your, pick up the handout there if you'd like, ma'am. If that is a part of their plan, and if so, how they implement it. Because that's not something you want to do by yourself. You know, you want to have a lot of people helping you. You need to have somebody in charge of sets, if there are sets, costuming. If there is costuming, you want to have somebody that will take charge of certain areas of the show so that you don't have to worry about when you want to do this deal with the music. So this is where parents can help out. Okay? Number 3, stop me at any point if there's any comment or question you have. Okay, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. All right? Number 3, thou shalt place an enticing article in the church newsletter about the beginning of the children's choir. Now this should happen every year. At the beginning of the year, whether your choir is new or not, there should be something in there that is appealing because you may get some new kids. You know, parents see that and think, oh, wow, we've been meaning to do that. Let's talk about that. So, you want to do an article that is going to include A, starting day and time for rehearsal, when that's going to begin. B, how often the children will be singing. You might also have your plan in mind before you get started. I plan every year the year before. And in August, I put out a music brochure that has every piece of music, organ, bells, every choir. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's something I do over a period of time. If you're the children's choir director, that will not take you long. Okay? You can sit down with the clergy or whoever and plan the Sundays you want the kids to sing. Do that in a heartbeat. And they will love to help you with that. They will love to know that you want to blend in with what's happening and that you don't want to interfere with something else that's going on a certain day. And so that would be very beneficial for you to be able to set up how often they're going to be singing and let the parents know. There's one of my parents that she is a detail person from the word go, and she counts on my letter every year at the beginning of the year listing all the dates, because she goes right home and marks her calendar. And there's some people who do that, and they'll keep that open. And so if you're organized and they're organized, it can't miss. You know, it's one of those things. C, also in the article, what other activities besides singing will be involved in weekly rehearsals? A lot of people think, what do they do for 45 minutes? Surely they don't sing all that time. No, they don't. Okay, we learn an anthem, we do hymn studies, we play musical games, we work puzzles, you might describe, if you have it, if you do it, you might describe the notebook you have ready for your children that has all the pages in it with everything in it that you're going to be doing for the year. That also gets handed out at the beginning of the year when the kids first arrive on the first day. I mean, if you organize your year and have it set up at the first part of September, it'll be a breeze because you got everything in line. You know exactly what you're going to be doing, and a lot of times you have all the materials already there. So organization will help you tremendously. If you're organized at the beginning of the year and you know what you're going to do, then you can tell people what you're going to do. And they think, boy, this person's organized. I like the sound of this. Because they know, they have an idea of what their children are going to be experiencing. And when they find out that they're experiencing so much more than just the music, you know, they're experiencing team efforts on things, they're experiencing fun and games, they're experiencing so many different aspects of rehearsals that they just didn't know about before. You can make that clear in your article and just let them know that this is something that their kids don't know. Okay, make sure you get them here. All right? So, that takes care of 3. Number 4, thou shalt recruit like crazy. Okay? What are the ways to do that? Let's look at the ways here, and then I want to find out if any of the rest of you have other ideas. Okay? A, telephone as many parents with children as possible and share your enthusiasm for your program. Okay? With internet and email and everything, there's still, I think the telephone is still one of the best ways to communicate. Because it's almost face-to-face, it's much more one-on-one, and it just, to me, there's a personal touch with a phone call that says, I really care enough about you to call you and talk to you. And so don't hesitate. Emails are good, don't misunderstand me, I don't mean that, but I do mean that in the beginning, if you're talking to people about joining choir, it'd be wonderful, because then when they have the question arise, they can ask you right there. They don't have to email back or wonder when they're going to see you to talk about it. So call parents and invite their children to come. Okay, B, send follow-up emails to those parents who plan to involve their children. This is what you do after you've made the contact and you know that they're interested. Then you can begin to email, because that is really one of the best ways to communicate. It beats snail mail by dollars, by time. I mean, it's just a godsend. So use it. It's one of our best tools. Contact those people. Construct an email list, a distribution list with your parents' names and emails on there, so that you can type out an email, click on junior choir, and send it, and it's done. So, you know, the internet is our best friend or our worst enemy. In this case, it can be our best friend, if it works right. Okay? B, send follow-up. Okay, I did that, didn't I? Send follow-up emails. C, visit Christian education classrooms on Sunday morning. This is a wonderful time to get to the kids themselves. When are you going to see that many kids together? You know, probably not ever, except Sunday morning at Sunday school. So go to their classes. Ask the teacher prior to Sunday morning if it would be all right for you to come in. Don't just go and sneak in and say, "I'd like to talk to you all for a few minutes." Is that okay? The teacher's got plans, and if that teacher's as organized as you're going to be, they may or may not have a chance for you. You know, they want to. It's just courtesy to say, you know, may I come and speak to the kids for just 3 minutes about junior choir? Oh, sure, come on, this Sunday would be fine. You know, work that out with them and then go do it. Because the children will, interesting, I think they'll enjoy hearing from you and seeing you face to face and knowing that this is not just something you're doing through their families. You're talking to them directly. And you're sharing your enthusiasm, and make it sound good. Make it sound like it's just, you know, can't be missed. So you want to do that. D, speak to the children individually, apart from Sunday school. When you see them in the parish hall or the common room or the fellowship hall after church, talk to the kids. You know, don't just spend all your time visiting with your friends and all the adults in the church. I mean, get to know these children. And just, you know, one-on-one. You don't have to talk about choir necessarily. Just talk to them. You know, ask them how school is. Ask them, just get acquainted with them. And, you know, introduce yourself and talk to them then about coming to choir, and leave it open. You know, don't approach them about this is something you're going to have to do. You know, leave it to the point that, you know, this is something I'd love for you to think about. Go and talk to your families about this. And then don't bug them. You know, every time you see them, don't go, "Are you going to sing the choir? Are you going to come sing with me?" You know, they get to where they see you and they duck around. Because they know what's going to happen. And so you don't want that either. You don't want to be a pest, but you do want to get to them. And I think this one way to get to them is just get to know them. Because, you know, when you're comfortable with somebody, then you can talk about things. And so speak to them individually and get to know them. Now, I'm going to ask some of you, are there any things that you do for recruitment that we've not talked about here? Yes.
Yes, for several weeks in August, as we're recruiting for all the music ministries at the church, as long as it's council approved, because we have to be organized and structured, we'll allow certain groups of the congregation to give what we call a temple talk, which is during the announcement time of the church worship service. And so oftentimes, you know, at this, prior to what we call rally day, I'll give a temple talk, which then shows my face in front of the congregation. I'll be there for both services that morning, and they'll see my face in front of you know, for people that don't know me. I'm active, but not everybody else is active at the congregation. And then, so it's that in-between personal one-on-one and before you have a relationship to where you can email and phone call. Because if they get a phone call and they don't know your face yet,
that helps.
That's uncomfortable for a new member or a non-active member to feel connected with you. So
that's exactly right. Very good idea. Very good idea. Yeah, get your face in front of the people. Other ideas, other things that people do in the way of recruitment that we haven't talked about. These are all very helpful, and you can't have too many ways to recruit. Yeah.
I know one of the things that really helped. We live in a small community, and when we started running a bus, we have just one elementary school, and we actually run a bus on Wednesdays and pick up children from the school, and it really grew our Wednesday afternoon.
That is taking hold in different places when there's a way for the kids to get to choir, and the parents don't have to worry about it. Yeah, that is a wonderful plan, and a lot of churches are implementing that. I know that there are several people that I've talked to whose churches have a bus or who have arranged some sort of carpooling situation. Okay. Did I see another hand? Yes.
I did have fun and good luck with some snail mail, but the children signed up in the spring at our church.
Good.
So for the little ones, kindergarten, first grade, and some second graders, I happened to find some little cards that had smiley faces.
Right.
And I just wrote a little note. Big smiles on all of us, because on the date your choir starts. And you know, for that grade, they don't, well, at that age, they don't get much mail.
That's exactly, you were so right. You're so right.
And some of the parents said, thank you, because they'd forgotten they were going to do that.
Well, and that is directed straight to the child. So again, that's a very wonderful idea. And there's nothing wrong with snail mail. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that if you're in a hurry, but this is a time where it really would pay off. Go directly to the kid. Have something appealing, kid appealing on the card.
That age doesn't have a whole lot of.
No, they don't. And boy, do they feel special. That is a very good point. Yeah. Other ideas anybody has? Okay. All right. We have covered what happens before choir starts the year. What is our time frame? When are we supposed to finish, Stephen?
9.
Is it 9? 9 o'clock? Okay. I'll talk fast. All right, next 6 commandments take place after your year begins. Okay, you've got your kids, you've talked to parents, you've lined things up, you've planned your year. Everything is set to go. Rehearsals are off the ground and running. Okay? Thou shalt plan thy work and work thy plan. If you were in my session yesterday, you heard that Helen Kent years ago coined the phrase, plan your work and work your plan. I asked her where she got it. She said she got it out of the comic strip. It was the punchline of the comic strip. She said, I don't remember anything else about the comic strip. I just remember reading that and thinking, that makes a lot of sense. Because what it involves is planning your year, but then maintaining flexibility. If something comes up that something you've planned isn't going to work, don't fret. You know, work your plan, fix your plan so that it adjusts to what happens. I mean, we get hung up on the fact that we've got to do it this way. You know, I've got it laid out this way. I can't do it any other way. Yeah, you can. You really can. Flexibility is the name of the game these days. Well, it kind of always has been. But I think we're realizing more and more that if we can't be flexible, we're going to be all knotted up. And it pays to work with each other. That's what churches are about. So if something comes up and there's something that's going to get in the way of something, work around it. Okay? But you got to have your plan. You got to have your plan down or you can't work your plans. Okay? Let's go with A. As much as possible, plan all scene dates and anthems for the upcoming year. Provide the dates for the parents at the first rehearsal. We kind of talked about that. At the first rehearsal, you can send a sheet home. Or you can email them with the dates, whichever works better. At the beginning of the year, it's kind of nice in a way to just send that sheet home. It may be the only sheet you send all year long. But then they'll see that and they'll hopefully mark their calendars and be ready to get on board with you. Okay? B, have your rehearsal room clean, neat, and ready. I'll tell you something about kids. They can't always verbalize something, but they can sure feel things. And if they walk into a messy room, where things are just everywhere, and the director's running around like crazy because he or she doesn't have the music out, or they've lost the notebooks, not sure where the notebooks went, and they're running around trying to get ready, the kids feel this. And it's not a comfortable feeling. They would never be able to say what it is they feel, but they sense that things aren't quite, you know. But if they come into a room, rehearsals on the blackboard, the notebooks are laid out, the chairs are in a row, the piano is clear. I mean, if they come into a room that's clean and everything is set up, that says that you cared enough about them to get ready and take some time to get ready. They can't verbalize that either, but they can sure feel it. They'll know that you have cared enough to make this work. So, have your room neat and clean and ready. Everything in place. We always have a snack. We always have a sugar-free lemonade and these little, they're sort of like Cheetos with their fried cheddar. Kids love them. And they're gluten-free, of course. And so all these things, almost all the kids can have. I mean, I don't have any kid that can't have the Cheetos and the sugar-free lemonade. One of my kids came in the first day of choir and said, is this lemonade sugar-free? That's nice. Okay, I can have it. You know, I mean, you know what the dietary requirements are at home, but you can eliminate a lot of problems by just doing a couple of things. We start with food. If you feed them, they will come. You know, and it's true with adults, it's true with kids. You know, have something, and the parents will love you for that. Because what's the first thing a kid wants to do when they get out of school? Yeah, stop at the convenience store and get something to eat. Well, if they come to choir, they'll have it. And so we start with a little bit of food. It's also a great time for you to interact with them and just visit for about 5 minutes. Talk to them, let them tell you about their day. You know, relate to them about things. If they're having an issue, you know, maybe remind you of something that you went through when you were a kid. You can share that with them and you all realize you're on the same page. You just get to know each other. It's a wonderful time at the beginning of rehearsal. Just relax, just eat and drink and relax. I mean, it's, you know, one of the things we thrive on in churches. I mean, the best food in the world is in churches. You know, have you noticed that? You go to any fellowship supper or any potluck dinner, you're going to get the best food anywhere. And so, you know, that's, people get to thinking about that when they go to church. That also contributes to the idea of family. We share a meal, you know, that kind of thing. So, that's a little aside, but we do start with that. We go to C, then have music in the folders and all necessary tools and resources on hand. Have your rehearsal planned out. Know what you're going to do. When you finish one rehearsal, evaluate it and figure out what you're going to do the next time. It won't take you 10 minutes. To figure out what worked right, what you need to do, where you need to pick up here next week, what you want to bring in that you haven't been doing. And then you'll have your rehearsal planned out. That way, you can get it ready that day and have everything set when the kids come in. And that will also allow you to be at the door and not be running around getting ready. Because there's nothing a child appreciates more than being greeted. Call them by name. You know, the minute they walk in, hey, George, how you doing? You know, how was school? Exchange though, talk to them, get to know them, and when they come in, greet them by name. Even if a child is late, I'm going to call them by name and say, glad you're here. Why? Is it their fault? Probably not. At that age, somebody else had a problem. You know, a parent got held up by, you know, we have horrible construction in Tulsa right now. It's hard to get anywhere, and that's always an issue. And so, you know, we don't worry if people run late, especially the children. I mean, they can't help it. So greet them, make them feel comfortable. They already feel weird coming in when everybody else is already there. So don't exacerbate that by, you know, chastising them. Oh, you're late. You know, it's not important. There are too many things in this life that are worth fussing about. That's not. Okay? So, have your rehearsal plan on the board before the children arrive. Okay? What does that tell them when they walk in? We're ready. This is what we're going to do today. He knows what she knows what we're going to do today. They've made plans and we're set to go. The kids check, each week I have a checker, and they check each thing off as we go. And that way they see we're making headway. That's something that they may not also be able to verbalize or communicate, but they sense that we're doing things. And when we get to the end of rehearsal and everything's checked off, they see we've been busy for 45 minutes. We haven't been twiddling our thumbs. You know. So, have your rehearsal on the board and before they come, and they will see that you are prepared. E, if you feed them, they will come. We talked about that. Provide a light snack before rehearsal. The puffed popcorn is what I call the Cheetos, etc. You can get that you can get it at the drugstore. I think you can get that there, and most of the grocery stores carry those things. Involve the children in various ways during rehearsal. Okay? How many of you have an ADHD child in your choir? I asked the wrong question. How many of you don't? Well, I tell you what, it's the way of the world. Okay? It's not the kiss of death. It is not seriously a problem. How do you handle it? I'll be honest. I don't. I don't do a thing. That kid may be all over the place. I move right on. I keep right on going. Because I tell you what, when it comes time to sing, they'll know every single word. They are bright children. There is a chemical thing going on in there that we can't control. Now, I have talked to parents and suggested that this might be going on and that there are ways to deal with this. And if you approach it correctly, it can work out. I had one mother who was just at her wit's end. She said, he's having so much trouble in school and I just don't think he's that done. And I said, I said, I'm no doctor, but I think I may know what it is. And so we talked, and I suggested she check, and sure enough, that was it. They got him on some medication, and he's just fine. He came back to a whole different kid. You know, it may take a couple of tries with the medication, but it can be dealt with. Now, I had a kid come in one day. He knew he was ADHD. And he'd come in and say, "You're not going to like me today. My parents didn't give me my medicine." And I said, "John, I will like you any day you're here." You know, it's not their problem. It is, but it's not. I mean, they can't help it. So, you know, rather than make an issue of it or fuss at them, for heaven's sake. I mean, you spend your whole rehearsal chasing a kid around, trying to get them to sit down and behave. This goes to this business here that we were just about to talk about, involving the children. Where was that on this list? F. Involving the children. Yeah, sometimes these kids just need to be active. I'll let them pass out pencils or music, or help me clean up afterwards. That's a wonderful thing, because they love to erase the board. And they like to do this and that and the other. And if they feel helpful, that helps the whole situation. It may not make it go away, but it sure can make it more bearable. And you know, what we don't want to do is to get in the way of these things that are happening that are natural. And difficult to deal with, yes. But, you know, if we deal with them on a positive level and just keep our heads and don't let them dictate how we run everything. The kids get to where they, you know, I had one child one year who was literally all over the room. And we just kept on rehearsing. The kids got where they didn't even pay attention to it anymore. And then he'd sing and he'd know everything. I mean, they're absorbing the whole time. It's just one of those weird things that nobody's quite sure how they work, but they do. And so we deal with them. Anyway, let your children help. Well, being the checker is also a neat thing, checking everything off the board. But there are lots of ways that they can assist you with that. Okay, number 6. Thou shalt educate the children about the parts of the worship service and appropriate behavior. Okay, this is critical. Because if the children, my children, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders, sing the whole service. They process with the youth choir. They sing on Sundays when the youth choir sings. So, because there's fewer of them and there's more space in the choir loft for both choirs. So they process together. They sing the whole service. They stay there the whole time they recess. Okay? They don't always know all the hymns. But they are in the service. And they are up there. And they have the best seat in the house. They can see everything that's going on. And so, I'm not, you know, it's okay to bring the children in, let them sing and take them out, but I'd almost rather keep them in the service so that they begin to feel ownership. But this takes education. This is what we're dealing with here. Talk to them about what the parts of the service mean, because that may not have happened yet at home. I mean, parents, that may be something they just haven't got around to yet. You know, to talk about what the offertory is, what the morning prayer is, what the gospel lesson is, what the Lord's Supper is. I mean, they just may not have gotten to these things yet. And you can begin the process then, because they're going to experience them from a different vantage point. They've never sat up in the choir loft before. And they're going to get to see everything the way it is, so you want them to know what they're looking at. Educate them about the parts of the service. And here's another way to get people in front of them. Invite your clergy to attend rehearsal and share some of these things and what they mean. Lots of clergy interact well with kids, and they enjoy it. And so it's wonderful for them to see the clergy person not in the pulpit, but they're right in the choir room where they are, talking with them. You know, he talking to us, she's talking to us. You know, she came to rehearsal today, talk to us. It's one of the things they'll go home and tell their folks. And so, you know, we want to be sure they know the people that are part of their church family. And so let the clergy come in and be a part of this process. They can come in and talk to them about worship service parts and all this. B, teach the children to respect other worship leaders as they would be respected. In other words, you know, how would you feel if the clergy started chatting and talking while you were singing? You know, we don't want to do that while they're preaching. And believe me, it'll happen. I mean, it's amazing. My little 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders will sit there for the hour. They may not focus on everything, but they have respect. They'll you know, they won't chatter and chit-chat. I do have a parent sit with them on Sunday to help them if there's anything they need. If somebody needs to go to the restroom, or if they lose their place in the bulletin or whatever, they're there to help them. But the kids learn this procedure, and it's neat for them to just be out there looking out at the congregation. I mean, that's kind of important at that age. They feel like they're leading, and they are. You know, once it's time for them to sing, they are the focal point of the service. They're the important part of the service at that point. So, because we want everybody to pay attention to us while we lead, we want to pay attention to them while they lead. This is something you can teach. Okay? C, teach them how to process and recess. Go through it. Don't just tell them how it's going to be, but go into the church and have them practice going up there. You know, if they're going to process and recess, rehearse it a time or two so that they are not uncomfortable. Here's something else you could do. If you're not the organist, bring the organist into rehearsal. Let the organist play a hymn, any hymn, while they walk up from it and walk out. And they'll get to know the organist this way. So again, we're bringing in people, we're letting them see who works here, who's a part of this church family, who is helping to lead and head up the program. So, but if they do process and recess, they need to practice that. So give them rehearsal or two to get used to how that works. And then Sunday morning will feel very comfortable to them. Okay? Any questions or comments to this point?
What we do is bring different musical instruments in from the orchestra so they start getting exposed to that.
Into rehearsal?
Mm-hmm.
Neat. Yeah, that's good too, because, you know, our musical family is extended into the community. So, you know, any community people who can come in, sometimes these kids will be involved with going to a symphony or something, maybe their class goes to, and if they meet some of these folks in rehearsal, like you're saying, they'll see them and they'll feel like, oh, I know that person. You know, they came and talked to us one day. That's a great idea.
And you actually get to play something.
Get to test the instruments. Yeah, that is really cool. That's a neat plan. Any other comments?
Something that works for me with the children in worship, I have parents that don't bring their children to worship because it's too much trouble. But I can sit up there with 40 of them and they're fine just with me. And it's because I tell the children, you know, listen to the service. Who's preaching? Who's singing other than you? Or how many crosses do we have in the church? And then, you know, we have beautiful stained glass windows, so I talk to them about that. And then I'll tell them on Wednesday when we have practice, I'm going to ask you questions about the service, and I'll pass out prizes. And you know what? They listen better than I do. So I have to be really careful as to what I like.
Well, nobody's giving you a prize to listen. So
right, exactly. And some of them can quote the sermon verbatim, but that has worked really well for me.
That's a great idea. Yeah. And it is funny how kids don't behave with their parents like they behave with someone else. I mean, your parents will be the first ones to go, I can't believe they sat there the whole service and didn't say a word. What did you do? Did you give them something? Did you put something in there? No. They're kids, but kids are kids, and they're going to be different with different people. And that's why, I mean, a lot of people would teach their own children piano, and I don't criticize that. I think that's wonderful if they want to go that way. But I prefer to have my kids study with another person just for the extra relationship, you know. And so I think, you know, this is kind of works that way with the children's choirs. I mean, they got the relationship now with you, and also with whoever is up there sitting with them. And so most of them, that's not their parent. That might be one child whose parent is there, but I mean, everybody else is just another grown-up that's there to help them. So yeah, I think kids have a way of kind of coming through when they're expected to. And boy, let them know the next rehearsal what a good job they did. Be sure they know. Don't bypass that, you know, and just assume that that's going to be the way it is every time. Be sure they know they did the right thing.
One thing that we've gotten in the habit is going through, talking about church etiquette prior to, if it's the Sunday, if it's the last rehearsal before a Sunday that they're offering music and worship, we go through our etiquette of we stand when the adults stand, and we follow along in the bulletin. We still use hymnals. We don't have screens with the music. So even if it takes them half of the hymn to find the right number, I go around and I just exchange hymnals and help them get, you know, I open it up to 800, hand it to them, open up to 800. Right. But we also talk about it's time for your drink and potty break the 10 minutes before we go into worship. because it got into a little habit of a major exodus.
And somebody
Everybody's
left,
thirsty and
everybody
everybody
else
has to go potty. And it's just because they're wiggly and bored, you know, or somehow just disengaged.
Something else to do.
Something else to do. So we say, you know, I remind them, and it really does work over time. If it's an emergency, you can tell.
Sure, exactly, that's right.
And we do allow a little water bottle with a closed top underneath their chair if they think they're, especially with this summer heat, or, you know, it started in March, our summer heat.
Yes,
so.
it did. It did.
But that works for us.
Those are great ideas, yeah. I like the water. We have water available at rehearsal for all the choirs.
Yeah, rehearsal and during worship, we allow it under our chairs.
Cool, that's nice, that's great. Okay, was that all of 6?
Yes.
All right, 7. Gosh, I'm going to have to move on. Thou shalt teach hymns as well as anthems. We talked about that. If we don't do it, it's not going to happen. I talked yesterday in my session, I don't know how many of you were there, about some of the resources that are available for teaching hymns. Choristers Guild has an old series, it's not in print anymore, that Austin Lovelace prepared years ago, back in the 60s, maybe 50s, I don't know. Some of them are still very, very pertinent. They're pages that have the hymn on one side and discussion about various aspects of the hymn on the other side in child's language. So we might have, for example, Holy, Holy, Holy. And this is what he wrote about it. He talks about the Trinity. And goes into some detail about what is involved with the hymn, and about its origin and all that. It's all on the level of the child. So when they read it, they can understand it. These are out of print, but I'll tell you a secret. You can still get it. If you contact Choristers Guild and tell them that you want the Austin Lovelace Hymn Study Series, I contacted them and said, are those still available at all? And they said, we'll sell them to you for $0.05 a piece. They used to cost 10 cents back in 1970. What a deal. Listen. You know, so, I mean, I ordered the whole set. I just ordered all 40 of them and put them in a file. And for $0.05 a piece, you can't beat it. And Choristers Guild also, every time they put out their newsletter, their magazine, there's a hymn study there. So you can follow that. Okay? It's a wonderful hymn study. I think it covers 4 weeks. Something you do each week to get the hymn to the child. And all this, and it's got a photocopyable page. I mean, it's a great resource. So teach the hymns. It is so critical. I mean, the hymn tradition in every denomination is worth hanging on to. There's just more wealth there than we could ever imagine. And so we just need to be sure that's passed on. We can't let go of it. Okay? If the church doesn't teach hymns, who will? That's A. We talked about that. The use of the Hymn of the Month plan is really good. If you teach one hymn each month, if your children sing each month, that's kind of cool because you teach a hymn. Then be sure you work with the choir director or the minister, whoever picks the hymns, and be sure it's in the service the day they sing. So that they don't, you know, it's like learning a language and then not being able to speak it. You know, you're going to forget it real fast. So be sure that they get a chance to sing it then in worship. So I work with whoever picks the hymns on that and give them notice. I mean, let them know that 2 weeks from now is it possible we could do, because the kids are working on this. But if the clergy pick the hymns, they will want to support this. And the choir director will too, especially the choir director. Whoever picks the hymns, I think will want to work with you on that. Especially if you go to and ask them as a favor for the children, you know. C, be sure to use the hymn in church, okay? Let's talk about that. D, for resources, consult the back issue of the Choristers. Look for some of the Choristers magazines. Go back to some of the past issues. You can order those if you don't have them. And see what those hymn studies were. I'll be honest, I think I was the one who got that going. Because I was on the Choristers Guild board at the time, and they had kind of not done anything with hymns for quite a while. When Austin Lovelace's things folded, there hadn't been anything come up. Patty Evans was heading the Choristers Guild up, and I was at a workshop with her, and I said, Patty, can we do something with hymns? I said, the kids aren't getting hymns anymore. I said, there's a lot of new hymns being written. And not only some old ones, but some really good new things coming out. So anyway, she said, let's talk. I mean, Patty was a doer. She was a go-getter. And so we had lunch together, we chatted, and I did the first hymn study for the magazine. I can't remember now what it was, but I did it, and that got it open. And so they have continued that tradition, and it's valuable because they have someone different do each time, and so you get a different perspective sometimes. It's really kind of a cool thing. Then you can construct your own often by just seeing what some of the other people have done. Okay? E, show the children several aspects of the hymnal. Now this works better with your older kids. If you have a 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade choir, when they're able to read, they can get used to the indexes, they can get used to the composer index, the title index, the metrical index. That is such fun for them to understand the meter of a hymn and how words can be interchanged from one hymn into another. And what does that do to the text or to the music? Does it enhance it or does it destroy it? Most of the time it gives it a different perspective. And you think, oh, that's kind of cool, you know. But that is an interesting thing. Teach them about the aspects of the book. Show them the book. Let them hold the book. Let them find these places. Okay? Thou shalt teach musicianship to the children as you teach the music. Don't let things go out the window like shaping the phrase. Okay? Be sure you work with those. Getting the right sound. You know. Little Mickey Mouth. This is an old trick. You want to tall vowels, too, don't you? Have them sing ah, and then have them follow the shape. Sing ah. Hear the change? You'll hear it with him too. That's what I want, you say. That's what I want. Take the other one and throw it away. Get rid of it. Okay? That's the one we want to keep. And then work that. Every time they begin to lose that little bit, show them Mickey Mouth. You know? And so, work phrasing. Work phrasing. When you're building a phrase, one of the best things you can do. Picture's worth 1,000 words. If you're building a phrase, start with the ribbon, pull it up, and relax it. They will follow that shape. Start soft. Build. Relax. Okay, it's a vision thing, but they can follow that and they can understand that a lot better than saying, no, get louder, get louder, no, softer. You know, that's just too much chatter while they're singing, and they won't be able to focus on that. But if you can show them these things, then what you tell them is, I'm going to look like an idiot if I use these things in church. So this is what I'm going to do. If you see me do this, get louder. If you see me do this, get softer. What are they going to have to do? They're going to have to watch you. Yeah. Work diction. Final consonants especially. You know, teach them. Show it. You know, that's what you're there for. You're not there to just keep the beat. You can show them musicianship. You can show them cutoffs, things that they can visualize and see what they mean, and be consistent with what you do. Okay, but do teach musicianship. Do work the music. Are we out of time?
What do you do with the slinky? Did I miss that?
That's a tension relaxation thing. That's kind of thing where it's another way of saying, you know, get louder, get softer. Feel the loudness, feel the relaxation. You know, you can use that too. Yeah. So, build an atmosphere of mutual respect. I'm gonna just say quickly, this has got to be the backbone of what you do. And I mean mutual. It's not that they respect you because you're the adult. You've got to respect them and understand that they need that. They need to understand that you think a lot of them as people. So, and that their self-esteem is so important. Smile. Okay? Get rid of the word no in your vocabulary. Don't ever use it in rehearsal. Okay? Turn questionable answers into right answers. If they say something that's not quite what you want, leave them to say something else. I mean, give them another question or kind of prod them on so that they move to the right thing. Be enthusiastic. If you are enthusiastic, it's going to rub off. It's contagious. Okay? It's something they will pick up on, and it's something they will go out of the room feeling good. Okay? Play with your children. Open and closing pray, sorry. You want to play too, but with musical games, yeah. Okay, that is enough said. Prayer at the end of rehearsal, beginning of rehearsal. Where else can you pray? You can't pray well in the church anymore. Okay, do it. Okay, we're in the church. Let's pray. Okay, prayer on Sunday morning before the service. Talk about the power of prayer with children on their level. Let a clergy person come in. Maybe your associate director or associate minister can come in and talk to them about prayer. Okay? Then we close with a little paraphrase from the Episcopal prayer book, if you'll allow me to do so. I'm Episcopalian, but some of my best friends are Baptists, so it's all good. Hear what our Lord Jesus Christ saith. Thou shalt love the Lord with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy children, squire, as thyself. Thank you.